Did you see me sprint there? Did you see me sprinting?
Is
No,
that-
it's kind of a fast walk.
That was sprinting?
For me, it was. It was
Great.
Catch my breath. Call the meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Apologize for the delay. We'll get moving right along. Is there any persons wishing to address the, nope. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes from February 1st, 2017?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Are there any conflicts of interest that need to be disclosed at this time? Hearing none, we'll move forward. May I please have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Over to you, Bob. Well,
President Tolke, members of the board, Jim Jacobson, Vice President of Academics. It's my pleasure this evening to have three of our faculty members here to do an academic program overview on our Health and Human Services Division. It's our smallest division at campus in that it includes two programs, our early childhood program and our law enforcement program. And I'm pleased to introduce our faculty who will be presenting today. Kay Bowman is with our early childhood program. Loretta Lelux is with our early childhood program, and Captain Jeff Talbot is with our law enforcement program. And I will turn the mic over to them.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to share information about our human services programs at Southeast Tech. To start with, I just want to clarify, I'm just having a little, it probably helps if I get our PowerPoint up. There we go. I'm used to having a little clicker when I'm teaching and walking around and not standing behind a podium, so it's a little awkward. I'll start with just a quick definition of human services because it's a really diverse field. It describes many different kinds of occupations, but there is one common thread that runs through the human services field and defines it. And that is that human services provide jobs which provide a service to society. In other words, we are broadly defined, uniquely approaching the objective of meeting human needs through a knowledge base that often crosses many different academic disciplines. We focus on prevention as well as remediation of problems, maintaining a commitment to improving the overall quality of life of our service populations. This is a long-winded way of saying, while at risk to oversimplify what we do, human services is about helping people improve their lives. Now, at Southeast Tech, we have two programs that fall into this classification of human services, early childhood and law enforcement. Our human services programs are housed in two different buildings, law enforcement in the Sullivan Health Building and early childhood specialist in the Mickelson Building. We also utilize other locations both on and off campus, which we will explain shortly. I'm Kay Bowman. I started this early childhood program as the first full-time faculty member about 7 years ago. We'll go into a little detail about that. You have in front of you information about me. I've been doing early childhood a really long time, so you probably would rather hear more about the program than hear a lot about me. So I'll step aside and turn this over to Loretta.
Good afternoon. As Kay mentioned, my name is Loretta Lelux, and I have just been in my second year as a full-time instructor, but had served as an adjunct instructor for 5 years. So similar to Kay, we both have a real passion for early childhood. So we're going to visit a little bit this afternoon about what our program is all about, program outcomes, and then also what are some coursework. So that's going to be what I'll visit with you about this afternoon. So just to get started, as Kay mentioned, about 8 years ago, the program came to Southeast Tech campus, and really a need for educators to have higher levels of training and education in the field of early childhood. And so we started out as a hybrid, which means that there were students coming to campus on weekends because many of them were full-time employees working in childcare arrangements. So that's how we started out our curriculum, with students in a hybrid. And then Kay was hired, as she indicated, and so we moved to more of a traditional full-day type of program, and then transitioned once again because of the needs that students were having to having coursework done in the evenings during the weekdays. And then finally, 3 years ago, a second full-time faculty member was hired, and so we were able to offer coursework during the day, and we kind of phased out our hybrid courses at that point in time. So currently, we offer every class every semester, and what that does is allow for a lot of flexibility for students that are coming in that are taking classes maybe in a more part-time basis. So that's been pretty exciting for our program. As you'll see up on the board, there's some great pictures of our early childhood classroom as well as the lab space. So we did start over in the Health and Sullivan Health Building, and we transitioned to the Mickelson Building, where Southeast Tech renovated some space for us. And so what's very unique for our program is that we're able to bring children into our actual lab space so we can have some direct experience with children and teachers kind of learning hands-on. And so you will see children that will come over from the Scarborough Center, so we're really blessed to have that group of students over. And then as you can notice is that students are able to observe. So we have children interacting on one side of the classroom, and then we have the teachers on the other hand that are getting some direct experience. We can talk about what they saw and what are children doing to develop and to grow. And we've also had opportunities where parents have come with their child in an infant toddler classroom, and the parent and child were coming together along with the students, so we were talking with the parent about their child's development as well. So the lab space is greatly utilized and gives teachers a real great opportunity to learn hands-on. So the broad-based program outcomes, we utilize these outcomes through the NAEYC, which stands for the National Association for the Education of Young Children, and they are actually standards for professional preparation. So most of our textbooks use these same kind of program outcomes as foundational core values that we would have in our program as well. So we really do see them as our backbone, so you can have an opportunity to read those on your own. But what we really want to emphasize is that our program is helping to develop those communication skills, professional skills, critical thinking skills in really all of those program outcomes. As I stated before, the Scarborough Center is actually considered a lab school for us, and so students get there the second week of their very first semester. So they're going to the first 2 semesters that the students are with us, they're actually over at the Scarborough Center for an hour each week, getting hands-on opportunities. By their 3rd semester, they're in the Sioux Falls School District in our early childhood programs, which is a great collaborative effort. And then by their 4th semester, then they are actually writing goals based on these program outcomes. And so we hope that they will then strengthen and have those skills mastered by the time they graduate with their 4th semester. And we do have a program brochure that highlights the next 2 slides. And so what I'd like to just share about that piece is that we actually have 2 different programs. And we have our early childhood specialist diploma, which is just a 2-semester of classes followed by an internship of 160 hours. So they are getting that opportunity to get back into the field and to talk a little bit about, or to really express what they've been learning in those core classes that you can see up on your screen. That's a total of 31 credits, so they finish after the 2 semesters and then generally an internship at the end. The second program that we offer is an AAS, and that is going to be a 4-semester program with 240 hours of interning, which is a total of 66 credit hours. So you can tell with the second year, more content, a little bit more in depth about what we're studying, as well as adding some administrative and business practices, which is really crucial for our field as well, for those that are going to be out in the industry owning their own business someday. So that's what I was going to highlight.
So the next piece we want to just visit with you about is just a little bit with our data. This is information from 2015, 2016, so our last school year. We had 60 students enrolled. Our retention rate, again, you can read this. We had 55 graduates. Our field is one that is in tremendous demand. We constantly have businesses contacting us wanting to know if we have any students that want a job. It's a huge need in our field. We have about 82.5% of our graduates that are actually working in a related field. And those that are, the employers are very satisfied with our students and the progress or the skills that they are bringing to the field. One of the things that's really important to us is to get students involved, to feel professionals. We always tell them, we don't treat you as the professionals that you're going to be. We believe that you already are a professional by nature of coming here and being part of this program. In the state of South Dakota, as you know, it's stuff that's been in the media and just in the last few days, our state doesn't have a lot of requirements for people in the field of early childhood. And so we believe that students who are, we call them superheroes. By coming, they don't have to come to us to work in our field, but yet they come to us. So we want to really help them feel a part of our profession from the very beginning. So one of the things that we've done that Loretta has actually been really instrumental in getting going is an early childhood student organization, which we call the Early Childhood Club, because it's a little easier to say. And we do social kinds of things. We also do a lot of community service kinds of things. So, for example, this fall we had a mitten drive, and we had a car full of mittens and hats and gloves. We got a grant, a little mini grant from Thrivent to supplement that. A student helped to write that grant. And we were able to do that. We've participated in a 5K. We do social networking kinds of things. Students help us. We have a Facebook page, so we invite you to look at Southeast Tech Early Childhood at our Facebook page. We also encourage students to do volunteer work. And in every class, they're able to submit those volunteer hours. And we average from between 600 and 1,000 volunteer hours from our students every semester. We have you heard about NAEYC. We have a local Siouxland chapter of that. Loretta and I both serve on the executive board of that. And we have a student member of that. We give out scholarships for that. And we have a student every year that's gotten a student membership to NAEYC. And we have a student who's a member of the executive board as well. There is a Sioux Falls WOW event every January that SAEYC is part of, and we pay for our students to attend that. This year there were over 700 early childhood professionals from the community in the area that attended that along with our students, and so they got a real sense of community and able to participate with that. And we have a national and international speaker that comes to that every year. Career opportunities. Lots of things that people can do in the field of early childhood. You can see this list on your own. I don't need to read through that for you. A lot of these, again, I think you're already probably pretty familiar with. Our impact on the workforce. Lots of our program graduates have come to work in the Sioux Falls School District. So it's a real win-win for us to be able to partner with the school district for our students to either do their internship and certainly in that third semester to do a practicum with us, that they get a taste for what this is like. Some of our graduates have gone on to continue their education, pursuing a baccalaureate degree and even graduate work. We have 2 or 3 students who have finished master's degrees now. I know of one of our former students who's now employed as an elementary teacher at one of our schools here in Sioux Falls. Another one is teaching near Yankton, and 2 more of our graduates are currently student teaching in Sioux Falls. Several of our graduates have gone on to study psychology, social work, or they're working with child and family advocacy. One of our graduates was so inspired by the nutrition section of her Child Health Safety Nutrition Unit, her first semester with us, that she went on to complete a degree at SDSU, and she's now a dietitian at one of the Hy-Vees. She also writes an online blog that focuses on nutrition as it impacts children and families. So we got a little early childhood piece in there. And then, of course, we care for children. That's what we do. We're passionate about children. We're passionate about working with families. And yet we are one of the least respected professions. Our workforce depends on us in order to function, to work. If there was no one if there were no people to take care of our children, our workforce would look very, very different. So we provide a critical service that spans across all social and economic areas. Quickly, I want to tell you a couple of success stories about our graduates. Like I said, we've only been here about 7 years doing this, full-time. Heidi Ravenberg-Fink was one of our very first students enrolled in the hybrid program. She's the owner-director of Blue Dragon Academy in Garrettson and has been in the child care field for 20 years. Since graduating, Heidi has expanded her business from 1 location to 2. The 2 centers merged actually January 1st of this year, and she's currently sealing financing on building a new center. She serves on our Early Childhood Advisory Committee as well. Abby Lawson had just turned 18 when she started at Southeast Tech, one of those August birthdays. She was already a young mom, but she was determined to make a good life for her family and for her son and herself. Right away, she was elected to represent her cohort in student government. She organized a study group with other student parents. She worked as a tutor, working with other early childhood students and other students on campus, as well as working at another job throughout her 2 years at Southeast Tech. After graduating, Abby was accepted into the School of Education at the University of Sioux Falls, and she's currently student teaching in Sioux Falls, and she's on target to graduate later in 2017. So that concludes our early childhood part. We'll turn this over now to Jeff Talbot.
Mr. President, Board, thank you very much. I'm Jeff Talbot. I'm the law enforcement instructor at Southeast Tech. I've been employed with Southeast Tech since 2006. I had a unique opportunity. I adjunct taught for 2 years preceding my time full-time at Southeast Tech as I was completing my first career with the Highway Patrol here in South Dakota. I was also a part of the initial foundation of the program when they reached out into the law enforcement community to get input on the need and curriculum ideas. I was contacted in my previous position with the Highway Patrol to discuss and organize with that. My career preceding my time here at Southeast Tech was with the South Dakota Highway Patrol for 28 years. I was very fortunate in that career. I progressed from the rank of a trooper, working the highways as you typically see the troopers out there trying to avoid them, all the way up to the command level of a district commander, where I ended my career here in Sioux Falls, the district commander of the southeastern part of the state. Our program, in addition to myself, has a number of adjunct instructors, as I've listed up there. Each of our adjunct instructors bring forth an expertise in an area that is very crucial for the profession. This profession is a very far-reaching profession, as you probably know, and the type of skill and the knowledge that it takes to pass on to our students has to come from multiple directions. In addition to these adjunct instructors that are listed up here, all of us use people in the industry or related fields to come in and guest present in the specific areas that perhaps the instructor may not necessarily be an expert in. In fact, just this week in a class of victimology, Darcy Lassegard had members of the Sheriff's Office come in and talk to him about the victim-related issues as they deal with in the profession. Our broad program outcomes listed up here, and I guess I would like to just point out a couple of specific points that that I think that make our program a good program. The technical skills and the knowledges that have to come with being a law enforcement officer is something that's fairly black and white. How to fill out a ticket, how to interview people, things of that nature. But another part of this profession that is I think a little bit unique is the fact that it is more than a profession, it's really a lifestyle. And one of the challenges that's being faced by the industry out there today is finding qualified people, and also finding qualified people that really know what they're getting into. When I look back at my own career, I kind of chuckled. Just the other day I was talking to somebody and I said, really? It was those first 3 or 4 years I was in there, I was out there having a lot of fun doing things, but I didn't really maybe understand the depth of what I was involved with. And also, too, that job permeates your life on and off duty. And one of the things that we try to do with our particular program is make the student aware and understand the types of challenges that they're going to face. They're going to be living that life as an officer all the time, and how that impacts their personal life. They work nights, they work weekends, they're going to be away from home at times when other families are getting together and celebrating. The advantage that I think that gives our students is that they're prepared emotionally as well as technically in the skills, so that when they get out there in the job and they hit that first bump in the road, so to speak, they're likely to find a way to resolve it, thus staying in the profession and serving the community, as opposed to having that department have to find somebody new all over again. I'm not a very prepared speaker in the sense that I make a lot of notes, but I'm going to read something because, when wisdom hits you, you can't do any better than that. I don't want to mess it up. But there's something that I got exposed to a number of years ago that I really liked when people ask, what does it take to be a law enforcement officer? And that's what we're trying to do with our program. That's what we're geared towards, is training people to be law enforcement officers. In a moment, I'll talk about the different career paths, but primarily, that's what we're looking at. So many years ago, one of the leading professionals back in the turn of the century in law enforcement, I should say the 1900s, was a man by the name of August Vollmer. And Vollmer was asked, what does it take to be a good police officer? And here's what he had to say. He said, the citizens expect police officers to have the wisdom of Solomon, the courage of David, the strength of Samson, the patience of Job, the leadership of Moses, the kindness of a good Samaritan, the strategic training of Alexander, the faith of Daniel, the diplomacy of Lincoln, the tolerance of the carpenter of Nazareth, and finally, the intimate knowledges of every branch of natural, biological, and social sciences. So that's what we're trying to do. And through our course curriculum, those are the types of things that, in addition to the kind of the black and white things, we're also trying to instill. Of course, there are the different professional skills that are very unique to law enforcement, and we have those in our program. I kind of tease every now and then Vice President Jacobson that I have the dubious honor up until this year of, I hit my students. We put them into perilous situations. We pepper spray them. We put them into fight situations, confrontations. So they learn those types of skills that are, again, very readily applicable to the profession that they're going to be in. Currently, between our first and second year program, we have 64 students. Our demographic of our students in our program, it is largely male, and largely they're about the 18 to 22-year-olds, although we do have students go beyond that. At one stage during my time at Southeast Tech, we even had a woman come into the program that was 61 years old. Our retention rate, as you see, is up there. One of the things about our retention rate, I think, goes back to what I was talking about. One of the things that happens with a lot of our incoming students is they have a depiction of this profession that's largely based on the media, and I mean the entertainment media. And so when they get in there and they find out that it is not quite like what they've seen on TV, they find that perhaps this isn't going to be part of what they do. Plus, there's a lot of discipline that's instilled in this particular program, too, because it's an expectation that's going to come in the profession. We have had a total of 249 graduates since the inception of our program, the first graduating class being in 2004. law enforcement doesn't have a sanctioning body in the common sense that you'll find in a lot of other industries. In South Dakota, as it is with every state, there is one body that pretty much gives a blessing of the licensing or the sanctioning for the profession. In South Dakota, that is the South Dakota Attorney General's office through the Law Enforcement Standards and Training Commission. Our program has an articulation agreement with that body that allows our graduates to take a written test that's referred to as a reciprocity test. That test is the first step towards them gaining full certification in the profession of being a law enforcement officer. We've had a lot of success with our graduates passing that test. Not all of our graduates choose to take that test. I don't want to belie that particular fact. The percentage is probably around 30% of our graduates decide that they want to take the test. Some decide they do want to go on to the academy experience. And in all honesty, as you can see, some of them do not pass the test. The reason why our program is very proud of the accomplishments of the students in that is that test is also given to people who would come from outside of the state that want to become a law enforcement officer. Let's say they would come from Iowa and got hired on the police department here. Rather than them going through the academy, if they pass this test, they don't have to go through the academy. On the average, the existing officers coming in that take that test have a little over a 50% pass rate. It's a very, very hard test. It's actually written to fail, if you will. Like our partners in the human services, we try to get our students involved with things. We have a student organization program. Our student organization program will reach out into different community aspects. Over the last several years, these are some of the events that we have participated in. This last year, South Dakota Salutes was where we worked with. That was an event that was put on by a number of business leaders in the area to salute the efforts of first responders. They held an event out at Hunters Point, south of Humboldt, letting law enforcement, first responders, fire, EMS, those type of people come out and have a little fun sporting clay shooting guns and everything, getting fed. And our students helped facilitate that particular event. You know, law enforcement has been broken down historically in eras, and we're in what is called the community policing era. And in community policing, probably one of the biggest points is that law enforcement needs to connect and build partnerships with the community. And in part, that's what we try to do with our student organization, is to kind of instill that idea of this being a part of the community and actually trying to elicit the lawful abiding of citizens through methods other than ticket books. Our program, like I said earlier, is geared largely at training people to be street law enforcement officers. Up there on the list, you'll see on the public side of things, a variety of different professions that our graduates are very capable of fulfilling. There are a couple asterisks up there: Division of Criminal Investigation, Parole, Probation, and Conservation officers oftentimes will require a 4-year degree. We have a number of students that go on from our program to get 4-year degrees and have filled positions in all of those types of professions. Privately, of course, there are the different types of securities and loss prevention jobs that our students are also qualified, and we have people working in. The impact that we've had in the workplace in South Dakota, I think, is very far-reaching, and I'm just going to leave these up here for a few minutes. And when you see across there, these are departments that presently have or have had members of our cadre of our graduates. Several of these departments have had multiple officers. I think for right now, if I'm remembering correctly, I think we have about 6 graduates who are on the Sioux Falls Police Department. Highway Patrol, I still have a little bit direct contact with. I think right now we have about 7 graduates that are state troopers. At one point in time, we called the Watertown Police Department our farm club. They have 6 of our graduates, and when you look at a department that size, I kind of take a little pleasure in that. The chief of the Watertown Department hired all of our graduates. Now she's running a program very similar to this. But And here's just a few more of the different types of departments throughout the country, or throughout the area. We also have graduates working in North Dakota and Iowa and Nebraska. Minnesota is the one state that regionally doesn't play well with law enforcement coming across for certification and credentialing purposes. So I'm not aware of any graduates there. We have a very early graduate of the program that has gone on through the career path that he is now actually a member of the uniformed Secret Service in Washington, D.C. He started at the state penitentiary. He went into the federal penal system, and then from there he was able to jump into the uniformed Secret Service, which is a branch of the Secret Service that doesn't carry out the functions that most people think of in that. I'm going to conclude with one of our success stories, one that, excuse me, is rather personally close. Lindsay Doubledy graduated from our program in 2007. She was the first graduate from our program to get hired on the Highway Patrol, and I'll have to tell you, I was very proud of that fact. Lindsay is actually like a daughter to me. I do not have children, and Lindsay's father was not part of her life, and actually, since graduation, our role of mentor and has become more of a father-daughter type of thing. Lindsay graduated and got hired on early on with the Highway Patrol. She worked on the Highway Patrol until 2012. Her passion, Lindsay's very driven, and her passion was always in drug enforcement. And while the Highway Patrol does a lot of work in drug interdiction, she felt that she could do more with investigative. So she was able to finish her 4-year degree. She went on and obtained her 4-year degree while she was working with the Highway Patrol, got hired on with the Division of Criminal Investigation, and worked drug crimes specifically for 3 years. Family started calling to her, or having a family started calling to her, and the life of a law enforcement officer, and especially in the drug realm, is a tough life. And so she moved on into a probation officer position. Now she's here working in Minnehaha County, working probation officer. I could go on and on talking about Lindsay and some of our other graduates, but I know that we got a time frame to meet. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us, and hope that you can accept the acknowledgement of our report here today, and we're free to answer any questions if we can for you.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff or Loretta? Okay.
What's your nearest, say, competitor, but did you say Watertown? Did they start a program now, or?
Watertown does have
Lake area
a similar program at Lake area, and the very first program that like this in our state was out at Western, out at Rapid City. I have to kind of smile and laugh because I was involved in training very specifically when that program came in, and I kind of said, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. So I'm the ultimate hypocrite because now I'm doing the same thing, so.
Yeah. Thank you, very
You
informative.
mentioned that we don't maybe have as friendly with Minnesota as far as the law enforcement and certification. Where do a lot of our students come from who are in the law enforcement piece of that? Are they local to Sioux Falls? Do they come from kind of a tri-state area?
We largely draw from I would say the immediate Sioux Falls area. We have had graduates come from, or we've had people come from out of state. Minnesota, Iowa, and North Dakota and we haven't had anybody coming out of Nebraska, but largely they come from kind of the immediate Sioux Falls area. Minnesota, and when I say that, it's not really an education-related thing. It's just Minnesota is kind of a different duck to crack in terms of law enforcement overall, coming from even a person that wants to get hired, a person that comes from South Dakota trying to get hired over there without any education backgrounds running through the same gauntlet.
And from the Health and Human Services, the early childhood stuff, looking at pictures, and you guys are kind of opposite. I feel like you have a majority of male students, and I'm assuming that you guys have a majority of female students. Same age range, so you mentioned 18 to 24 as kind of your normal. Would you say that that's?
Yeah, that would be very typical of our students. A few non-traditional students we would get that might be a little older, but generally that same high school individuals. And certainly males are welcomed, and we would love to have more men in the teaching field. I think that's pretty predominant, working with infants all the way up through higher ed. So we certainly welcome that, and we'd love to see more applicants
I studied elementary education in college, and there was one male in my program, so it's, yeah, it's pretty typical.
We started this fall semester with 4 men in our incoming class, and we thought, 4? This is pretty. 2 never showed.
Oh.
One started and kind of looked like he had deer in the headlights, like, what have I gotten into? Oh my gosh, it lasted about a week and then changed majors. And the other one is continue. We've graduated two men, third one will graduate this May, and then we have 2 more currently in the program, so.
It does happen.
It does happen.
Well, and then maybe for both programs, what do you do for recruiting? Do people find you? Do you find that you're always full, or is it a continual process of going out and trying to fill your program, and what are your sources for recruiting people?
When we get an opportunity that we try to reach out to the high schools, another thing that's really a good avenue for us too is connecting with the industry. Right now in the profession of law enforcement, they're starving for people. They're having a hard time finding qualified people. And so they're kind of thinking outside the box and using a lot of other resources. I have been in direct contact with a lot of the departments in the area saying, can we come in and talk to your groups? And through that also too, when they're talking to people outside, they oftentimes recommend people in. Highway Patrol's doing a special, this is the second time they've done it here in March. They're going to have a special night where they're going to, kind of for lack of a better word, recruit women. They have a little program to try to get women interested, and they come specifically to us on our campus, and when they discuss it, they also bring out the fact that, for those of you that maybe you don't get hired or you want to find out if this is a profession for you, they reach out through us in that way, so.
We also encourage or try to reach out to high school students. We just had, in fact, we have this little brochure thing. We had, what do we call it? It's Child's Play or Come Play With Us or something, some cute name.
Oh, I saw
That we had, yeah. And so we had 83 high school students come from around the region. And then we have another, gosh, about that many high school students from Sioux Falls coming to us later in the semester, and we visit classrooms. We just had some folks from MB come and meet with us to see what we could do to partner with them. The challenge with us is that the pay is so low in our profession, and the regard with which early childhood is held in the public sector is not great. And so that's a constant challenge for us when you can go flip burgers at McDonald's and make the same amount of money, or go get a job, maybe not at one of the best places, but you can still work in the field. And plus people think, well, anybody can do this. And so one of the things that we emphasize with our students is we don't just teach you what to do, but we teach you why it's important, because there's a lot of really icky stuff that happens in our field of early childhood, and a lot of old practices. And as you know, in the field of early childhood, how much things have changed in the last several years, and how much more we're learning about how the brain works and the significance of the early years. And so having been in the school district for 29 years directly, I so appreciate that. And then when Southeast Tech started this early childhood program, to feel that investment that our community was willing to make in that. And there's just such a huge need. And our students from the beginning start getting job offers. And almost all of our students as interns are being wooed into the place where they're interning. Why don't you stay with us? And we'll work around your schedule and whatever. So, we do everything we can. But again, until I think there's a better value on that, we'll continue to struggle. So.
Well, thank you all for the work that you do. Certainly, whether it's law enforcement or helping, to take care of kids, you're making a big difference in keeping the community safe and developing and hopefully creating and keeping people as productive members of society. So thank you for your presentation today, but also for the work that you do day in and day out with our students too. Appreciate it.
Thanks to the three of you for showing us the opportunities. Great. Thank you.
Do you vote on it?
Yeah, may I please have a motion to acknowledge the Human Services Program Overview Report?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Good afternoon, President Thoelke, the board members. Thank you for the opportunity here for our programs to present. I think it really speaks to the quality of the academic offerings, and we really, I think, are fortunate to have these individuals. And thank you, Kay and Loretta and Captain Talbot, for your support for the students. They do a tremendous job. And as Captain Talbot mentioned, I think, as far as the program, the success of the program, what maybe is the best indicator, it's been copied, in terms of by other institutions seeing that success. And it's due in large part to the faculty. I think it would go back in very large measure. And the same thing has happened with our early childhood program. My former employer, Northwest Technical College, Kay was involved in starting that program, and she, as odd ducks as we are in Minnesota, I think, in terms of, we did reach out and realize there was some expertise there that we wanted to receive, and Kay was kind enough to lend that to us. So you have strong faculty and really high-quality programs, so it's very nice to see them with the opportunity to come forward and visit with you. I'm here just to give you a very brief update, legislative update, on 3 bills that we have been following fairly closely in this legislative session. I think you have copies of all 3. The first is SB 65, which is the Technical Education Oversight Bill, which purpose was to establish the South Dakota Board of Technical Education. The good news is that passed and was signed by the governor last week, last Thursday, I believe. So we are already starting to work to try to, or the technical institutes have been asked to find or identify a list of candidates to potentially serve on that board. So that process is underway. There are 2 other bills that I think are also very important that we were following. HB 1121 and the collective bargaining bill, that's purpose was to revise certain provisions regarding collective bargaining, separating the bargaining units from the school district. That bill was actually withdrawn last week. A companion bill, however, HB 1184, another collective bargaining bill, which its purpose is to exempt persons working in post-secondary technical institutes from collective bargaining provisions. And that bill actually passed the House last week on a fairly strong vote, 54-14 in favor, and this morning was in front of the Senate Education Committee and passed there on a 6-1 vote as well. And I would like to just make mention and thank, we had a few STI faculty, I think, that got up at 4:30 this morning and drove to Pierre and testified at the Senate hearing. And having the opportunity to listen into their testimony, I was very, very impressed with how professionally they addressed the issue and how passionately they spoke in terms of the overriding concern the faculty have in serving students. So I know it can be a fairly contentious issue, but I, again, want to thank those faculty for taking that time and providing the legislators with that voice so they're able to hopefully make a better decision in that regard. So that completes, I think those are the bills that at least at this point we have been following. So thank you.
Any questions for?
No, it's just too bad that there isn't a early childhood bill standards at least to help you guys out. That's something that I hope I live long enough to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're one of 5 states or 6 states that don't have standards at least, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the report on the legislative update?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Foundation update.
President Thoelke, board members, thank you for the opportunity to come and present and share some of the successes that the foundation has had over the last year and where we're at towards reaching our goals for this year. So just to give you a brief overview of the different areas in which we fundraise for and how we're progressing in those fundraising efforts. Primarily, the Southeast Tech Foundation fundraises for scholarships, endowments, temporarily restricted funding opportunities, and then unrestricted. The primary source of fundraising for the Southeast Tech Foundation goes towards scholarships and endowments for scholarships. So this year we had a goal of $245,000 in scholarships that we are trying to raise. Currently, we're at 152 respectively of that goal, with about 66,000 outstanding in invoices to come in. And then we have another potential of another 31,000 in commitments that are still lingering as far as trying to make a decision. So if everything comes in as we project that it will, we will definitely exceed our goal by about $4,000. So great potential to stay on track with increasing and growing our scholarship opportunities. Endowment growth has been steady. The goal of $50,000 is basically 2 endowments per year. We do have about $1,000 that came in. We have a family that lost a son due to texting and driving. They created an endowment and they contribute to that every year. So that's where you see the $1,000, $1,600 towards that contribution. We're also getting a $20,000 pending endowment from the Association of Engineers to create an endowment for land survey science students so that they can have funds to take the certification test after graduation. So it's an endowment that will be specifically for those students. So that's where you see that and the outstanding. So the total potential is about $21,000. We did have $20,000 that was maybe going to be in an endowment, but it actually came into scholarships. The South Dakota Association for Insurance Agents has donated $20,000 to the Southeast Tech Foundation this year to create a higher level scholarship. So it's going to be about a $2,500 scholarship for a number of students entering into the insurance field. So that was a great money that we got in. Other temporarily restricted funding are funds that come in for different programs that we have at Southeast Tech. We have $25,000 coming from Marmon. So that's what that goal is reflecting, is money that has come in that we didn't expect. A large number of that is from IBEW and NECA. So NECA is the National Electrical Contractors Association, and IBEW is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. They've been strongly supportive of our 2-year-old electrician program. So they've donated funds every year for us to not only be able to do scholarships, but also what are the needs of our electrician program? What tools or supplies do they need to further enhance the classroom experience? And so we're holding those funds in the foundation until the electrical program has decided how they'd like to utilize those funds, and then we'll transfer it over to them. So that's where you see those there. And there was a discrepancy on your PowerPoint, is that other temporarily restricted being 21,000, and it's actually 98,000 potential of that. So sorry about that little error. And then if you go down to the unrestricted, that's not really something that the foundation has typically had a goal for or fundraised for in the past. So that's why you see a big question mark next to the goal. But what we are doing is we are working to bring in more unrestricted funding so that we can be nimble and responsive to our industry partner needs. One way that we've done that is we've actually started charging an administrative fee in all of our scholarships. So we do take a 5% fee off of every scholarship to start to grow that unrestricted funding, and it has produced some great results for us. What that unrestricted funding has allowed us to do in charging that fee is to get a scholarship software. So we now have a scholarship management software that better matches our students with the scholarships that we have available. So it allows us to be a better steward of our donors' money, but also be more responsive and quick in letting the students know if they're going to get a scholarship. So it's a wonderful tool that we've been able to utilize because of our unrestricted funding. So those are the numbers you see presented there. And then we are also working, and it's very wordy, so I'm not going to go into a lot of it, but I'll give you the highlight. One of the things that has dramatically impacted the foundation over the last 2 years is the Build Dakota Scholarship Program. That's that free ride for students into high-need work areas. That board has challenged the different tech schools to work with industry partners to grow the number of scholarships that we have available so that we can get more students in the tech school and getting those free rides. So this year, we're actually have a performance criteria placed on us by that board, and that 175,000 of our total Build Dakota allocation needs to be matched with industry partner funds. So the way that we work with industry partners is a multifaceted level. So that's why we call Sponsor a Scholar one program with multiple ways to build your workforce. The first way is that industry partner collaboration that the Build Dakota board asked of us, and that's the Sponsor a Scholar 50/50 Build Dakota. So what that means is that we work with industry partners to pay for half of that student's education. Then we match the other half with Build Dakota. The expectation then for that student in that industry is for the industry to provide that student with part-time work while they're going to school, and then that job that they need to secure after graduation. And invest into that student's education. The expectation on the student then is that they're going to maintain the levels of GPA that's required under Build Dakota, the attendance policy of Southeast Tech, and then go to work for that employer for the 3 years that they're required to remain in South Dakota by the Build Dakota board scholarship program. So it's really an opportunity for industry to cultivate and ingrain those students into their culture so that when they do finish that 3-year term, that they're likely going to stay with that company because they've kind of helped, they've really invested in their education and helped them grow along the way. So that's what that 50/50 Build Dakota Scholarship Program is. The next program, and where you see some of the temporarily unrestricted funding coming through the foundation, is we have Forward Sioux Falls granted the foundation $50,000 to supplement this Build Dakota program. So what this means is companies that are interested in participating in the 50/50 Build Dakota sponsorship match part can get a grant from Forward Sioux Falls to buy down the employer side. So for an example, if you take an electrical student, their total education is roughly $18,000. So $9,000 of that would have to be paid for by an employer. But with this grant from Forward Sioux Falls, they'll buy down 1/3. So Forward Sioux Falls will pay for 1/3, the employer will pay for 2/3, and then the other match will be brought with Build Dakota. So the intent of this grant program is to give the opportunity to some of the smaller businesses who don't necessarily have those large funds to invest in that one student, but can come up with some of the money, and then the Forward Sioux Falls grant will supplement that. This grant will hopefully create 19 additional Build Dakota scholarships. So this money comes into the foundation temporarily, and then it is transferred to Southeast Tech. So we hold it for just a period of time until we're ready to start awarding. Then it gets transferred to Southeast Tech because as a foundation and with our 501c3, the donor cannot designate the recipient. So that's why we transfer it out at the point of award, because it would put us in jeopardy of our 501c3 status if we held it in the foundation. So no Build Dakota money, Sponsor or Scholar money, or this grant really does pass through the foundation. It all goes directly to Southeast Tech. We'll hold it for a period of time until it needs to be applied, but otherwise it would go directly to the school. The other thing that we're working to do is to create better pathways for students to get access to Southeast Tech. So to create more opportunities to get students from smaller communities and in Sioux Falls to come to Southeast Tech via the CTE Academy. So part of the inspiration behind this collaboration is that CTE Academy is in the renewal process of renewing seats with smaller communities and those in Sioux Falls. And so some schools districts, because of budget, have had to reduce or stop their seats at CTE. By Sponsor a Scholar CTE, this is a way to reopen that door by having a company sponsor that student or a student to come to CTE via this pathway. So Sponsor a Scholar CTE will really do one of two things. Either it will reopen a seat at CTE that may have been closed or reduced, or it will pay for an internship opportunity with a company. The CTE Academy has started an internship program where they actually place their students in an internship opportunity with a local company. So really what we're trying to do is work with companies to help them continue to foster that student all the way to Southeast Tech. So for an investment that the company would make, their first initial investment would be with CTE, where they would pay the $3,000 either to have that internship or to reopen a seat or expand on a seat for a certain school district. Then the other part of that company's investment will be a Build Dakota match. So if that student successfully completes all the requirements and programs at CTE, then, and they come in with that sponsor, they're automatically awarded Build Dakota at Southeast Tech. So that industry really does sponsor and carry that student all the way through to completion at Southeast Tech. A great example of how this is going to work is we have the first example actually is kind of our pilot, but Wilson Trailer out of Lenox. They currently, I don't think, have a seat at CTE, and we're working with Wilson Trailer to reopen a seat for a student from Lenox High School via the Sponsor a Scholar CTE pathway. So I really think that there's a lot of great opportunity to continue to collaborate with CTE through this method and leverage those Build Dakota dollars so that we're getting our kids that continued education and that full ride benefit from Build Dakota. And then the last way that we do Sponsor a Scholar is for those industry partners that are not able to leverage Build Dakota. So in Sioux Falls, we have a number of national and regional companies where some of their work is not located South Dakota based. A lot of their students have to go broad based in order to work, or they missed out on the opportunity. So it was before Build Dakota. We actually started this right when Build Dakota started. So for those students that were in our programs that weren't able to apply for Build Dakota, this was our solution for them. And also, again, for those companies that can't afford that larger investment that comes with Build Dakota. So Sponsor a Scholar is designed to connect companies with current students that we have in our programs, because one of the things that we experience is that our students are in high demand. In virtually every program that we have at Southeast Tech, our students are in high demand. So if companies do not connect with students early on, they likely miss out on the opportunity to hire them when they graduate, because by the time they get to that second year, they usually have where they're going already figured out and they've already interned someplace. So Sponsor a Scholar is designed to help companies connect with students early on in their education and then sponsor them and carry them through to completion. Because a lot of the times the reason why a student can't complete is a financial burden. We have a lot of students that come to us that are non-traditional students, where they've already spent some time in another post-secondary institution, or they have to self-fund because they're out of financial aid. So Sponsor a Scholar is a way to reopen that door for them financially so that they can get that education. So these are the results of our Sponsor a Scholar program. One of the things that's unique about our Sponsor a Scholar Option B that I'd like to mention is, like I said before, none of the funding that we fundraise in Sponsor a Scholar comes through the foundation. So, but it is very labor intensive for the foundation to go out and recruit and foster and develop those industry relationships. So in order to continue to raise funds for the scholarship side and to continue a robust scholarship program, we've worked a scholarship into Sponsor a Scholar Option B, in that if an employer is going to take a student from our program, we ask that they help us replace that student by providing us with a scholarship. So we're able to continue the growth and development of our scholarship program by leveraging that part of it with our Sponsor a Scholar Option B. We are unable to do that for the rest of the Sponsor a Scholar options, but we are on this one, so it helps kind of continue to raise funds for the scholarship program, and we're already going out and fostering that relationship anyway, so it's kind of taking care of two asks in one. So the success is it created $14,000 in new scholarship money for the foundation this year. Sponsorship, it was $38,000 to students. Forward Sioux Falls, their $50,000 investment is for 5 years. This goes beyond Build Dakota. So Build Dakota is actually only funded for 3 more years. Their investment goes beyond that 5-year period. So we'll reevaluate what our plan will be for those remaining 2 years after Build Dakota wanes. But the rumor is that there is a possibility for re-up of investment into the Build Dakota Scholarship Program if we can prove positive results in enrollment, workforce impact, and industry partnership. So another great opportunity for us is with Sanford Health. Sanford Health is wanting to sponsor 30 LPN students, 50-50 with Build Dakota. So that's another $200,000 potential for us to gain funds through that 50-50 match. So our potential is about $295,000. And when you add in that with what we've already raised, we have really strong potential if we meet all of those commitments, filling all 19 Forward Sioux Falls grants and filling all of those 30 LPN sponsorships. We have great potential to raise a lot of money through that Sponsor a Scholar program. And the last thing that I'd like to share with you that the foundation has been a strong part of is hosting sector breakfasts. So these sector breakfasts are our opportunity to bring in industry partners as it relates to our program, to really have a strong dialogue about what we're doing well as an institution, what we need improvement on, and what are the things that we're missing in our program offerings at Southeast Tech. The foundation's involvement is really to help bring together our foundation board leaders and making those connections so that we can get the right people in the room to have that dialogue with. And also the foundation has a vested interest in building those relationships so that eventually down the road we can turn them into donors. So the first one that we had was focused around healthcare, and it really set the bar high for how the next sector breakfast will go. We had 48 area participants come to that event, really engaged in strong dialogue with good recommendations for Southeast Tech. We had a strong panel that served to help facilitate that conversation. We had Bob Sutton with Avera, Lynn Sabiris with the Good Samaritan Society, John Crow with the Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, and Carla Hagen with the Sanford Health. So we had a really strong panelists to engage in that conversation. And then Representative Mark Mickelson was the facilitator and did a fantastic job about keeping the conversation really focused around Southeast Tech and what Southeast Tech can do. In these conversations, it's very easy to go into policy and broader scale topics. So Representative Mark Mickelson did a great job of really dialing that back to specifically talking about Southeast Tech and what we can do. So the next one that we have coming up is March 24th, and that's going to be with transportation. Transportation meaning our automotive, diesel, and collision programs, as well as CDL. We have partnered with the Forward Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls Development Office, the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce to promote these sector breakfasts. We've also worked with the South Dakota Trucking Association and the Auto Dealers Association in sourcing contacts to invite to this next sector breakfast. Then the one following will be the construction trades on April 5th. And again, we're partnering with Forward Sioux Falls, the Development Foundation, and the Chamber on all of these sector breakfasts. And we have lists from the HBA and AGC, the Association of General Contractors, in who we should invite to that. So we're really making sure that we're getting the right people in the room. Also, our facilitators for both of those events are working diligently to make sure that the right leaders are in the room to have that conversation as well. So Mark Cotter with the City of Sioux Falls will be the facilitator for our transportation sector breakfast, and then Chris Howman will be our facilitator for our construction sector breakfast. And then coming up after that, the dates have not been set yet, but we're planning the next one to be information technology sometime in April. We also want to do one focused on diversity and the different opportunities and challenges that represent that. And then we'll go into the remaining of our programs like business. And that concludes my board report. Any questions?
Anybody have questions?
A lot of great things going on that are engaging the community and getting good feedback to see how we can improve enrollment and make the programs that we're offering even more applicable to the industries and the businesses here in Sioux Falls and the community, so. And great work on all the fundraising, that's awesome. I'm sitting here thinking I have a 7th grade daughter, like, how much money is gonna be available so I don't have to pay for education? So I think as a parent, but certainly as a student, you know, that's a huge impact to why people do or don't go on to school. And so it's great if you can alleviate a big chunk of that worry and anxiety about their education. And all they have to focus on is getting to school and doing well in their classes. That's a huge thing for them to kind of be able to not forget about, but have less concern about. So great work, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Great, hearing none. We have a motion to acknowledge the Southeast Tech Foundation overview report.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. May I have a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.